In this section, we want to talk about scatter plots, which are one type of graph that are good for visualizing numerical data. Before we get into looking at scatter plots, though, we want to talk a little bit about, or hopefully review, the Cartesian coordinate plane. The Cartesian coordinate plane is sort of the fancy name for the graphing grid that you've likely seen in courses before, where the horizontal axis represents our x values, the vertical axis represents our y values, and then once we have that plane set up, we can plot points. We could connect those points with lines or curves, but we want to do a little bit of review of some of this information. In this case, what we want to do in example 1 is plot the xy coordinate pairs that are provided to us. So each of these values, or each of these pairs of values in a set of parentheses, are a coordinate pair, where the first value represents the x coordinate, the second value represents the y coordinate. Let's start with the point 5, 5, where again that first value is our x coordinate and the second value is our y coordinate. We would always start at 0, 0, and then move, in this case, to x equals 5. And then once we're at x equals 5, we would move down, in this case, to y equals -5 and plot that point. So this is point A, we'll call that. And the other thing that we're asked to do is indicate the quadrant in which each coordinate pair is found. So if we look at the xy coordinate plane, they take this rectangular region, the square region, and they break it up into 4 different sections. We refer to the first section, the upper right-hand corner, as quadrant 1, and then we move in counterclockwise motion to get to quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and then finally quadrant 4. In this case, our point A is in quadrant 4. And what we can notice about quadrant 4 is that here, all of our x values are positive, because if we started at 0, 0, we would move to the right. And then to move down into quadrant 4, all of our y values are negative. Now let's take a look at plotting point B, which has the x coordinate of -3 and the y coordinate of +2. Again, we would start at 0, 0, where the two axes meet. We would move to x equals -3 and up to y equals 2 to find our point B. And notice here that for all points in quadrant 2, x will be less than 0 because we had to move to the left from 0, 0, but then we moved up to find our y coordinate, so our y values will be positive. For point C, we have -4, -3. So starting at the origin, we would move to x equals -4, and then down to y equals -3. And I didn't list it, but let's go back. Point B was in quadrant 2, and now point C is in quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, all of our x values are negative, since we had to move to the left of 0, 0, and then we went down to find our y coordinate, so all of our y coordinates are also negative. And then for point D, we're given the coordinate pair 4, 8. So we would start at the origin, move to x equals 4, and then up to y equals 8. And we would find point D is in quadrant 1, where our x values are positive and our y values are positive. This is really a brief review of just how we graph points in that Cartesian coordinate plane, because we'll need to plot points on our way to building scatter plots. What we really need to understand is the idea of the coordinate pairs, that first value is our x coordinate, second value is our y coordinate. Sometimes we reference information about the different quadrants to talk about where our graph exists on the Cartesian plane. But really what we want is the review of coordinate pairs, how we graph those, so we can build up to our idea of scatter plots.